Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Teaching English on Durus Ain Mega Goal 3. Today, inshallah, we're going to have this plan, or to carry out this plan. Number one, we're going to introduce the reading passage of today. Next, we're going to review some new vocabulary from this reading passage. Next, we're going to answer some comprehensive questions. And at the end, we are going to review 5 irregular verbs. Okay? Reading. The reading passage today is about crimes, as this unit is about crime in general, because the title of the heading of this unit is Crimes Doesn't Pay. And as you know, we finished up to now 7 activities or 7 sections, and today we are at the 8th section. As usually, as you studied yesterday, we studied vocabulary building to prepare you for the reading and to make reading easier, to be easier to understand the passages that we are going to study today, the 2 passages. We introduced this reading passage yesterday, in the previous episode. If you remember, it was about Detective Combs. This is a smart detective who found out about the criminals, the 2 criminals in these 2 passages. And the title of these 2 passages is Crime Puzzles. That means that Mr. Combs trying to investigate and trying to find out who the criminal is. The first crime was under the title, The Case of Stolen Jewels. Stolen jewels. Who stole the jewels and who owns the jewels and who reported the crime? This gentleman here. Okay, Mr. Jones. Okay, I doubt if he is a gentleman or not, because he is the reporter of the crime. He is the one who owns the shop or the jewelry shop, and he is also the criminal or the suspect. Okay, the second crime was a murder. Okay, جريمة قتل, as you can see here. It was done by Mr. Jenner to his rival, or to the one who is competing him for the councilman. Okay, Mr. Reynolds. It took place in a bowling alley. Okay, and the title of this passage is The Case of the Bowling Alley Murder. Okay, before we start reading and listening also at the same time to this reading passage, let's make brainstorming out. Let's ask you some general question. If you can describe what a mystery, or if you have ever read a mystery, or if you have seen a movie about a mystery or a crime, okay, or detective story, you can tell about it. You can tell us, or you can tell your family members or your friends about it. And also you can talk about the characters, shakhsiyat, that was in this story. Okay, and today, inshallah, now we are going to read this reading passage, the first one, and we are going to ask you some questions, comprehensive questions about this reading, and also we are going to ask you about these words that are written in the red font. Okay, be careful to try to guess the meaning of these words from the context, because we are going to give you the definition and ask you to give us the word, and also we are going to give, as we said earlier, a comprehensive questions. Listen now and read at the same time. Read along with the one who narrates the story, and try to understand, to answer the questions, and to know the vocabulary of this reading. Are you ready to listen? Okay.
Pages 26 and 27. 8. Reading. Crime Puzzles.
The Case of the Stolen Jewels. Detective Combs was at the coffee shop around the corner when he learned that Jones's jewelry had been broken into. He arrived at the scene of the burglary in moments. Mr. Jones, the owner of the store, explained what had happened. I arrived this morning to open up the shop. As I walked up to my store, I noticed a lot of broken glass on the pavement. I looked up and realized that the display window had been broken. Combs looked out the broken window at the sidewalk, littered with glass. Mr. Jones continued. Then I saw that all of the jewelry from the display window was gone. The doors were still locked, so this must be where the burglar broke in. Why didn't the alarm go off? Asked Colmes. It's a strange coincidence, said Mr. Jones. I removed our old alarm system yesterday and made an appointment to have a new one installed today. Colmes looked around at the empty jewelry cases. I assume your jewelry was insured? Of course, said Mr. Jones. Thank goodness for that. Colmes nodded and said, Mr. Jones, I believe there was a crime indeed, and it was committed by you. What crime does Colmes suspect Mr. Jones of committing? Why?
Okay, now what crime? You need to answer this question here. What crime does Colmes suspect Mr. Jones of committing? So the reporter, the owner of the jewelry shop, and he's himself the suspect. Okay, so why you think he is the one, or he's the criminal, or he's the one who committed the crime? Let's answer the question now by listening to another reading now. Okay.
Answers. The case of the stolen jewels. Detective Colmes suspects that Mr. Jones took the jewelry himself and pretended that there had been a burglary so he could collect insurance money. The broken window is Colmes's clue. If someone had broken into the store, the broken glass should have been on the inside of the shop. Since it was outside the shop, the window must have been broken from inside.
Okay, so you noticed how smart Colmes was, because he had a clue. What is a clue? Okay, إشارة, that means indicating that the criminal is Mr. Jones himself. And how to answer the questions? Listen to read number one here. Who is the owner of these shops, or this shop, or this store? Who is the owner? It is Mr. Jones himself. Okay, next, number two. Why didn't the alarm go off? What's the meaning of go off? Means يشتغل أو يعمل. Okay, some of you think that go off means not to working. No, it's the opposite. Go off means يشتغل أو يعمل أو يعني يطلع الصوت للجرس. Next, why didn't the alarm go off? Sorry, Mr. Jones removed the old alarm system to install another one, and it was, as you know, a trick to hide it from going off. Okay, next, was the jewelry insured? Okay, yes, it was, because this is the main theme of this story. Mr. John wants to get the insurance money. Next, who was the first suspect of the burglary? Okay, the first suspect is the owner himself, who is Mr. Jones. Okay, now let's review the vocabulary. As usual, we're going to give you 3 hints. We give you a picture, we give you the part of speech, and we give you also the definition, and try to find the word from the reading passage that we read before. Decorative objects worn on your clothes or body that are usually made from valuable metals such as gold, silver, and precious stones. مجوهرات. How do you say it? It's jewelry. Okay. How do we find it in the passage? When the writer wrote Jones' jewelry had been broken into. Jewelry means here the shop of Mr. John. Next, this one. Okay, it's a noun. It's a formal agreement to meet or visit someone at a particular time or place. موعد. How do you say موعد in English? It's an appointment. Appointment. We had it like this. I made an appointment to have a new alarm installed today. This is what Jones said to justify why the alarm didn't go off. Okay. Next, it's a noun, a place. Where this picture now indicates a place where an unpleasant event happened. مسرح الجريمة. How do you say it? It is scene. Scene. Okay. He arrived at the scene. We're talking about the detective columns. He arrived at the scene of the burglary. مسرح جريمة السرقة. It's not a murder actually. Next. Okay, what is this? This is a noun. A path. A path means mamar. Okay, with a hard surface on one or both sides of the road that people walk on. Okay, we have pavement, and we have also another word which was mentioned in the reading passage, which is sidewalk. Sidewalk. Okay, next. Now, how did we find it in the passage? Combs looked out the broken window at the sidewalk. When he saw the broken window, or the pieces of glasses, he found them outside the shop on the sidewalk. Okay. Next. Okay, this is a verb, فعل. Okay, the verb said to make a characteristic noise, special noise, which is sound. It's go off. When the sound goes off, that means it produces sound, or it gives sound. Next, why didn't the alarm go off? Okay, this is what Detective Combs asked. Why didn't the alarm go off? Because it was removed by Jones, Mr. Jones. Okay, now look at this little girl. What is she doing with her head? It's a verb, فعل. Okay, to move your head down and then up. Down and up, doing like this. This is called nod. To nod, to nod your head means to move your head down and then up. Sometimes several times. Okay, especially to show agreement, الدلالة على الموافقة, approval. Okay, or greeting, التحية أحيانا. So Combs nodded his head when he realized the reason why he removed the alarm, and when he realized the clue of the glasses being outside the shop, he nodded his head. That means he realized what the solution was, or who the criminal was. Okay, now this is another verb, to do something that is illegal. تعمل شيء غير نظامي. Okay, or something that is considered wrong. What is it? It's commit. To commit, usually it goes with a commit of crimes. So you commit crime, that means تعمل جريمة. Next, the crime was committed by you. This is what the detective said to Mr. Jones. Okay, and here is another verb, to behave as if something is true. To behave, to show that something is true when you know that it is not. It's not true. So تدعي. So how do you say تدعي? It's pretend. Pretend. How did we see it in the passage? Mr. Jones pretended that there had been a burglary. ادعى there was a burglary. Okay, but actually he is the one who did that. Next, it's a noun, an agreement in which you pay a company money. تدفع فلوس to the company, and then pay your cost if you have an accident. In case that you have an accident or injury, the company gives you the money back. So what is it? It is insurance, تأمين. تأمين, insurance. Okay, he could Mr. John did that. Why? Because he could collect insurance money. Okay, يحصل على مبلغ من الانشورنس, من التأمين. Okay, this is another noun, information that helps you to find the answer. معلومات تساعدك to find the answer to a problem, question, or a mystery. To solve the problem, that like the broken glasses that the detective Jones, detective Combs find. It is a clue. Okay. The broken window is Combs' clue. The broken window is the clue that led Mr. Combs to find out who the criminal was. Okay, now we're moving to the other story, but this story is a murder. Murder means جريمة قتل. Okay, the title of this story is The Case of the Bowling Alley. You will need to read and listen at the same time, and please pay attention to all the words and try to understand the general meaning of this story, and also pay attention to the words that are written in the red font, because we are going to ask you about them, and also we are going to ask you comprehensive questions to check if you can understand it or not. Check who did the crime and why Mr. Combs suspect the murder. Okay, listen and read at the same time.
The Case of the Bowling Alley Murder. The Center Street Bowling Alley, the oldest bowling alley in the city, closed at midnight. At 4 a.m., the janitor found a terrible sight: a man with a knife in his back lying in one of the lanes. Detective Colmes quickly arrived at the scene with a swarm of police officers. "Anybody know the victim?" asked Colmes. "I do," said one of the officers. "That's Bob Reynolds. He's running for councilman. He and Mike Jenner have been having a bitter campaign battle." "Perhaps we should pay Mr. Jenner a visit," said Colmes. Before leaving the bowling alley, Colmes took his cell phone out of his pocket and left it behind. On arriving at Mike Jenner's house, Colmes told Jenner, "I have some grim news. Bob Reynolds has been murdered." "No, I can't believe it," cried Jenner. "We'd like to speak with you about the murder, but first I need to get back to the police station to file the report. Can you meet me at the station?" "Of course. I'll help in any way I can." "I'll give you a call." Colmes patted his pocket. "Uh-oh, I must have left my cell phone at the bowling alley. Would you mind picking it up and bringing it with you to the station?" Jenner looked confused, but said, "Sure, I'll do anything to help with the investigation." Later that day, Jenner brought Colmes's cell phone to the station. He was arrested and charged with murder. Why?
Okay, you notice now how smart Colmes was. He pretended that he forgot his mobile phone at the bowling alley and sent the suspect to get it, and he found out where exactly it was. That means he is, that was the clue that led Mr. Colmes to find out who the criminal was, and it was, as you know, Mr. Jenner. Okay, now the answer to this mystery or to this investigation, you will listen and read at it now.
The case of the bowling alley murder. Detective Colmes never told Mr. Jenner in which bowling alley the murder took place. Yet Mr. Jenner knew which bowling alley to go to for Colmes's phone. Mr. Jenner must have known where the murder took place because he was there.
Okay, because he was there, and he was also the one who committed the crime. Now, who found the stabbed man, the one who the bad or the terrible sight in the bowling alley? Who found him? Okay, we call him the janitor. Janitor, he's the one who found him. And who were running for the councilman? There are two persons who are running for the councilman. Okay, what's the councilman? The councilman is a rank or a place in the parliament that they were competing to reach. Mr. Mike Jenner and Bob Reynolds. So that Mike Jenner killed or murdered Bob Reynolds because he was he was competing him to reach this councilman. Okay, what did the Detective Colmes leave behind in the bowling alley? He left something intentionally. Why? He left it. He left the cell phone. Why? Because he wanted Jenner to find it and to bring it, which indicates that he was the criminal. Okay. Now for the vocabulary, what is this? Okay, where do you find this? You find it a building in which you can go bowling. Go bowling. That means a game or an activity. The narrow track along which balls are rolled during a game of bowling. That is called bowling alley. Bowling alley. Okay, and we found it in the passage here. The bowling alley closed at midnight. Okay, that's how it was mentioned in the passage. And here, who is this one? We call him a person employed to take care of a large building such as a school and who deals with the cleaning and repairs things in this building. We call him janitor. Okay, janitor. So the janitor found a terrible sight, manzar sayyi. He's the one who saw it, or he's the one who found it. Okay, and a large group of people all moving together. A large group of people, or insects. Sometimes you call it for insects, and we call it also for birds, or we call it for birds. We call it flock. Okay, so it's called swarm. Swarm. How was it mentioned in the story? Detective Colmes arrived, وصل المحقق with a swarm of police officers. Means a number of police officers. Okay, now a person who has suffered the effects of violence or illness or bad luck. Okay, we call him ضحية, we call him victim. Okay, anybody know the victim? That this is what Mr. Combs asked in the beginning. Okay, now a man who is an elected member of a local government. That was Mr. Jenner and Ronald were competing. It's called councilman. Councilman عضوية مجلس البرلمان, for example. Okay, he is running for councilman, or they both are running for councilman. A planned group of especially political or military activities that are intended to achieve a particular aim, we call it campaign. حملة دعائية, حملة انتخابية, we call it campaign. Okay, so he and Mike Jenner have been having a bitter campaign. You see here, bitter campaign. That means a bad campaign or a bad struggle or bad competing. We call it also bitter and battle. Okay, because they were competing to the degree that Jenner killed his rival. Okay, now the crime of intentionally killing a person. To kill a person, that is called murder. Okay, murder. We'd like to speak with you about the murder. This is what the detective said. Okay, and here, unable to think clearly or understand something. If you are unable to think clearly, that means you are confused. You don't know how to speak and how to recall information and how to say them. You are confused. Okay, Jenner looked confused. When he asked him to bring the mobile phone or the cell phone, he was confused. Okay, the act or process of examining a crime, problem, statement, etc., carefully, special to discover the truth. To discover the truth, that means investigation. Investigation means عملية تحقيق. I will do anything to help with investigation. Okay, here another word, when something happens, especially in a controlled or organized way, it's take place. Where the crime took place, it took place in the bowling alley. Okay, so the murder took place because Mr. Jenner was there. Okay, and here an expression, or expressing a lot of hate and anger. To express your hate and anger, that's called bitter. It's an adjective that describes the campaign or the rival, the competition between the two. Between the two, Bob Reynolds and Mike Jenner, who had been having a bitter campaign battle. Bitter, the campaign was described as bitter. And be careful about B-I, it's not B-E. When it is B-I, it's called bitter. Bitter, different than if it is B-E, which say better, أفضل, that's أفضل. But here, bitter means sad or bad thing. Okay? Now, here we have a comprehensive questions to write true or false. So write true or false for the following statements, and if the sentence is false, tell us why. Number one here, Detective Combs was at the police station when he heard about the robbery. Where was he at the beginning? Was he in the police station? No, he was not. He was at the coffee shop. He was at the coffee shop at that time. Now, number two, the broken glass was inside the store. Was it inside? When it is inside, that indicates the burglar came from outside, but the glass was outside. Not correct. It's false. So the right answer is the glass was outside on the sidewalk, which indicated or which is a clue about the criminal. It was done from inside. Number three, the Center Street bowling alley is the only bowling alley in the city. Was it the only bowling alley in the city? No, it is the oldest only. Okay, the story says it was the oldest bowling alley. This implies there are others. There are other bowling alleys. Okay, now next, Mike Jenner was Bob Reynolds' friend. Were they friends? Okay, does a friend kill his friend? No, they were not. Okay, they were having a bitter campaign. So look at bitter here, describing the battle. Bitter campaign, battle, معركة انتخابية. So what kind of campaign battle? It was a bitter, سيئة, شديدة جدا between them. Okay, next, Combs left his cell phone at the bowling alley on purpose. بقصد وضع التليفون أو الهاتف المحمول in the bowling alley in purpose. In purpose means بقصد. Yes, because he wants to check, or he was smart, very smart to check who did the crime, and he could find out. Now the last part of our class today is the irregular verbs. Now we're going to have 5 verbs. Look at the guy now. He's putting on his clothes. Okay, what's the past of the verb put? يلبس أو يضع. We say the past is put, and the past participle also is put. Now how can we use it in 3 sentences? He puts on his clothes, he put on clothes, and he has put on clothes. So the verb doesn't change from the past or the past participle. Next, these 2 children are reading. Okay, so read, the past of read is read, and the past participle is read as well. Okay, how can we use it in 3 different tenses? We can say here, they read a book, the 2 children read a book, or they read a book if we talk about the past, and here we can say they have read a book. Next, these 2 children also are riding. To ride a bike, are riding a bike. The past of ride is rode, and the past participle is ridden. So we say here, they ride bikes every day. Yesterday they rode bikes, and if the action has already just finished, we say they have ridden bikes. They have ridden bikes. Now run, يجري, run. Okay, he is running now. If you want to use it in the present simple, we say he runs. In the past, we say ran, and in the past participle, run. How do you say? How do you use it in the 3 sentences? We say he runs away, he ran away, and he has run away. Okay. Next, the verb here say. He says something. In the past, we say said, and in the past participle said. Okay. So he says the truth every day. In the past, he said the truth, and he has said the truth. Okay. That's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you inshallah in the next episode. Goodbye.